Good evening. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic show. This is kind of an impromptu show. I just got out of the movies. I just went to go see a movie that I was, well, pretty much one of the most, if not the most anticipated movies that I wanted to see this summer. And that is Maxxine, directed by Ty West, written and directed by Ty West, produced by Mia Goth, starring Mia Goth. And so, this movie, again, like I said, really anticipated to see it. As far as the summertime season goes, it's been, to be totally honest, it's been really dismal. Really dismal. And the last movie that I saw in the theater was the Omen prequel that came out. I think that came out around the springtime, which is crazy. That came out in the springtime, I think, of this year. And maybe even earlier. And that was the last time I went to the movies, to an actual theater. And that movie was okay. It was all right. The ending was absolutely horrible, and it felt so... it felt like such a studio ploy to, like, open this thing to where they can make more movies. It was really bad. But anyway, I'm not here to talk about The Omen. So, Maxxine, I've been wanting to see this movie for quite a while, and it's been a couple of years. It's been about 2 years or so in between each film. This is a part of I have to say, I think it's the best modern trilogy going right now in film, and I think it's the best trilogy in horror right now. I think it's the best, the most cohesive, the most adventurous, the most original. And which is, to be honest, you can't really find that anywhere today. I'd be hard pressed to like name a modern trilogy that is that strong, or that is this strong, and that really presents the audience something a little bit different and new, and yet totally pays homage to classic genres, classic films, classic directors that came before it, but does it in such a cool and remarkable way. That's the only way I can think of it. Of course, the first movie in this trilogy is X, and then also Pearl. I've done a couple of shows on each of those movies, I believe. Just spectacular movies, just amazing horror films, modern day horror films, and it left with the anticipation that there was going to be a third one, and I had no idea. When I saw X, starring Mia Goth, she stars in all of these movies, produced two of the films, and then also, I believe, was also involved in some of the writing. An amazing talent. I think she's the best actress and actor today working. She can do anything, and I think Ty West right now is he's probably he's definitely one of the best directors right now, and maybe the best horror director right now, just because of how multifaceted I feel like he is to what the horror genre is, and meaning that like he can really pay homage. You can see his influences, but he doesn't he's not trying. He puts it through his own original lens, and he gives you something new, but you can see his influences, and he really kind of, I think, pays it forward. I think he did that with X, with the classic and my favorite genre of all time, the slasher genre. And with X, being kind of a film that was, kind of similar to kind of a weird combination of like The Wizard of Oz meets Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. That's kind of what I think of when I see it, when I think of that movie. Amazing film. Mia Goth was such a powerhouse in all of these movies. And so when it was announced that there was going to be a third one, and then after seeing X, I had no idea this was going to be a trilogy. Blown away, so excited by it. And the trailer, when the first trailer came out for Maxxine, I was really just through the roof excited, but there was no release date. And I think I heard or had seen somewhere that the original date for the release of the film was pushed up and was delayed for various reasons. I think it had something to do with the big strike and various things. So for quite some time, there was like a question mark as to when this movie was actually going to be available, when it was going to come out. And so it just came out. I believe it was released last weekend, and I just saw it tonight. And I have to say, it's incredible. It's just such a great, stunning conclusion to the best horror trilogy going today. That's, in a nutshell, that's what I have to say. I could just end the show right there and just say that, but really, really psyched that I got to see it in the theater. Definitely a movie that I think you need to have seen the other movies, just because the storyline is it's so integral. The origin story, the characters. You really kind of have to know what Maxxine has more or less gone through. But I will have to say at the same time, you could possibly go into this movie totally cold and get the full scope, or get the full experience of the movie, even if you have not seen the other movies. But I do say you have to. It would be really. It's pretty essential. I think it's pretty essential. One thing I cannot wait to do is to buy all. I don't own any of these movies, but I cannot wait to buy them and watch them all together on Blu-ray. I think that would be just amazing. One of the things that I thought that was really amazing about Maxxine was that, well, the great thing about this movie is the timeline. It takes place in, I believe, 1985. It's such a classic throwback to the 80s. Like, I haven't seen a movie that captures a certain period in a long time and like this. And I almost feel like this movie is a love letter by Ty West and by Mia Goth to the horror genre. I almost feel it's like a love letter to the entire genre of horror, but then especially all of the amazing horror cinema that came out in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I feel like it's a love letter to that. And it made me think of the last Quentin Tarantino movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is an amazing film. And I feel like that movie is definitely a love letter to Hollywood. You really see, when I watch that movie, you really see the deep love and admiration and how much movies can inspire someone. And it really is, that film acts as a tribute to all of those influences. And I feel like Maxxine acts almost as the same way. It's like this love letter to all things horror. One of the things I was really surprised by and really totally excited by was that this movie is definitely like a slasher movie, but it also is very much, I feel like it's a modern day giallo movie, which I was really not expecting. This movie is such a tribute to Italian cinema, especially the giallo cinema. And anybody out there who might not be familiar with what giallo is, or you had all these brilliant directors, that directed giallo films like Dario Argento and Sergio Martino. just a huge list. Jess Franco that directed these. They're essentially the European or Italian version of like an Agatha Christie story. There's a lot of there's a murder mystery involved. There's a lot of intrigue. There's an investigative aspect. They're very dark. There's sometimes a psychosexual element. There's usually copious amounts of violence. There's always the gloved killer, like the killer wearing leather gloves and killing his victims with a knife. And you don't know who the killer is until usually the very end. And it's very much like it's very much a kind of the Italian version of like the classic murder mystery story like Agatha Christie. And the giallo genre was really big in the 60s, mid to late 60s through the 70s, and even up into the 80s. An amazing genre. Also, kind of a subgenre of the world of exploitation, or part of the exploitation. A lot of these movies were very low budget, very sleazy. The Italians were really known for really saturating the cinematography with all kinds of incredible lighting. This film has so much of that, and I was so excited because I think it's one of the greatest forms of horror exploitation, or one of the greatest forms of exploitation. And so, I did not know that this movie was essentially like kind of a modern day giallo, and I was super excited and blown away. And I think from top to bottom, this movie is just brilliant. It's got so many great references to so many different styles of horror movies and directors. Everything, like I said, to like the slasher genre, to Alfred Hitchcock, to the giallo. I mean, and the video nasties. All of the movies that were banned in the 70s and 80s that were deemed to be too offensive, and it's just amazing. All the gritty and dirty and nasty exploitation movies that came out. This movie is, like I said, it's a love letter to all of those movies and all of those genres in the world of exploitation, and it's just amazing. And Mia Goth is just simply spectacular. I love that the story has, like, it messes with your expectation, which I really liked. It went in different directions that I did not really expect. It had kind of two stories going. You had this like a plot, and then you had this little subplot in the background, and the way that was executed was so incredibly well. Ty West is a powerhouse right now. I think he's the best director in horror. I mean, I just think he has just elevated his skill set as a director, unlike anything else, or unlike anyone right now. I mean, there's a lot of great directors, or there's a handful of really great directors. You have Jordan Peele, Robert Eggers, Ari Aster, but Jordan Peele's really consistent. All of his movies are just amazing, I feel. Robert Eggers, same thing. I think all of his films are really great. Ari Aster, not so much. I was really disappointed with Beau is Afraid. But other than that, I mean, the sky's the limit to where Ty West can go as a director and as an artist. But an amazing film, a perfect and just a stunning conclusion to this just awesome trilogy. So I can't recommend it enough. Definitely get a chance to see it in the theater, because it's meant to be seen in the theater. It's a feast of for anyone out there who is into horror movies. This is like a kind of a dedication to all of it. So thanks again, and we will see you next time. Peace.